In what can only be described as a devastating day for Port Charles, Mayor Laura Collins faced the unthinkable end of her political career. After dedicating years to serving as mayor and fighting valiantly in the recent election against rival Ezra Boyle, Laura's world came crashing down when the election results were officially announced. The woman who has been a beacon of stability and leadership for the town would not continue in her position. Instead, Ezra Boyle emerged as Port Charles's next mayor, a development that sent shockwaves through the community and, more importantly, through the heart of one of the town's most respected citizens. The mayoral campaign had been contentious from the start. Laura had thrown herself into the race with determination and passion, believing that her years of experience and dedication to Port Charles made her the best choice to lead the town forward. She had worked tirelessly, making appearances throughout the community, shaking hands, listening to constituents' concerns, and presenting her vision for the future. Those close to Laura knew how much this election meant to her. It was more than just maintaining a position. It was about validating her leadership and her commitment to the people she had served so faithfully. However, behind the scenes, forces had been working against her. The political maneuvering orchestrated by Drew Kane, Jen Sidwell, and Ezra Boyle himself had been relentless. Their goal was clear: remove Laura from office to gain control of Sonny Corinthus's valuable waterfront piers, a prize that would give them significant leverage in Port Charles. Despite Laura's early lead in the polls, their tactics gradually chipped away at her support, narrowing what had once been a commanding advantage. As Wednesday, November 19th arrived and the election results came in, the news became official. After serving Port Charles with distinction, Laura Collins was no longer mayor. Ezra Boyle had won. The weight of that defeat, not just political, but deeply personal, proved to be too much for Laura to bear in that moment. The shock of losing the position she had fought so hard to keep, combined with the emotional exhaustion of the campaign, overwhelmed her completely. As the realization fully sank in, Laura's body could not support the burden of her heartbreak. She collapsed suddenly, fainting from the shock of the news. The moment was chaotic and frightening. Those surrounding her immediately sprang into action. Lulu, Laura's devoted daughter, was by her side instantly, her face etched with worry and concern. "Mom! Mom! Stay with me!" Lulu cried out, cradling her mother's head as she lay unconscious. The family rallied around Laura, their own disappointment about the election results temporarily overshadowed by their urgent concern for her well-being. Lulu looked around desperately at the people gathering around them, her eyes wide with alarm. "We need to get her to the hospital now," she said, her voice trembling with fear. Lulu was not alone in her worry. Family members and close friends worked together to help Laura, moving quickly and efficiently to get her medical attention. The gravity of the situation was not lost on anyone present. Laura had collapsed, and her condition needed immediate professional evaluation. Within minutes, they were rushing her to General Hospital, the very institution where she had sought refuge and healing during difficult times in the past. Lulu held her mother's hand during the journey, refusing to let go, her heart pounding with uncertainty about what the collapse meant for Laura's health. At the hospital, Laura was examined and stabilized. The medical team worked to ensure that she was okay, running tests and monitoring her vital signs closely. The fainting spell appeared to be a reaction to the shock and emotional distress rather than a serious underlying medical condition, but the doctors wanted to be thorough in their evaluation. For Lulu and the rest of the family, it was an agonizing wait for answers and reassurance. When Laura finally regained consciousness, she found herself in a hospital bed, surrounded by the concerned faces of her loved ones. As her eyes fluttered open and awareness slowly returned to her, the reality of her situation came flooding back. The election loss, the fainting, and now this lying in a hospital bed, defeated and vulnerable. The sadness that washed over her was profound and all-consuming. Lulu was there immediately, gripping her mother's hand. "Thank God you're awake," Lulu whispered, her eyes glistening with tears. "You scared us so badly, Mom." Laura's voice was weak and hoarse as she spoke, her words barely above a whisper. "I lost Lulu, I actually lost. The weight of those words hung heavily in the air. It wasn't just about losing an election, it was about the end of an era, the end of a chapter in her life that had defined her for so long. For years, Laura had been Mayor Collins, a title that was almost inseparable from her identity. Now that was gone. The grief was raw and immediate. Lulu squeezed her mother's hand gently. I know, Mom, I know this is hard, but right now, we need to focus on getting you well. We need you to rest and recover. Despite Lulu's brave words of support, the sadness in Laura's eyes was unmistakable. She turned her face away from her daughter, staring out the window at the Port Charles skyline, her mind replaying the events of the day over and over again. The campaign, the hope, the belief that she would win all of it now felt like a distant dream that had suddenly turned into a nightmare. The family gathered around Laura's hospital bed as word spread that she was awake. This was not the homecoming any of them had imagined. Instead of celebrating a re-election victory, they were visiting her in a hospital room, witnessing her profound devastation over her loss. Some of them tried to offer words of comfort, reminding her of her accomplishments and the many lives she had touched as mayor. But in those moments, such reassurances seemed hollow to Laura. All she could feel was the sting of defeat and the uncertainty of what came next. The woman who had always been strong, who had always led with grace and determination, now found herself broken by circumstances beyond her control and by the ruthlessness of political ambition that had conspired against her. As evening fell and the hospital room grew quieter, Laura remained absorbed in her sadness. Lulu stayed by her side, a silent guardian of her mother's grief, understanding that sometimes the best support one can offer is simply presence and love. The road to recovery, both physical and emotional, would be a long one for Laura Collins. Port Charles had a new mayor, but the cost of that change would reverberate through the lives of those who loved her most, and through the heart of a woman who had given so much of herself to serve her community. Next, we will learn about the unfolding drama surrounding Sonny Corinthos and his rocky romantic path with A.D.A. Justine Turner, as fans question if this pairing is doomed to fail. In the latest twists from Port Charles, Sonny Corinthos, the formidable mob boss, finds himself entangled in yet another romantic experiment that has viewers scratching their heads. GH writers have long aimed to steer Sonny away from his familiar flames toward uncharted territories, but these efforts often stumble like a ship caught in turbulent waters. Recall how the show once teased a sizzling connection between Sonny and the vibrant Natalia Ramirez, a pairing infused with high-stakes intrigue and passionate glances that promised to shake up his world. Yet, that spark ignited too fiercely, leading to Natalia's tragic and untimely demise in a plot that left audiences reeling from the abrupt betrayal of expectations. The chemistry fizzled amid escalating dangers, highlighting how Sonny's shadowy empire clashes disastrously with fragile new romances, forcing the narrative to pivot once more. This pattern underscores the writer's persistent struggle to craft a believable love story for a man whose life is defined by secrets, power plays, and unrelenting peril, often resulting in pairings that feel more like temporary diversions than enduring bonds. Now, enter A.D.A. Justine Turner, the sharp-witted prosecutor who's circling Sonny like a predator in the courtroom shadows. After Natalia's exit, the storyline seamlessly, or perhaps contrivedly, positions Justine as the next contender for Sonny's affections, blending professional rivalry with undeniable flirtation. On the surface, their interactions crackle with tension, stolen moments in dimly lit diners where legal barbs give way to lingering eye contact, and whispered conversations laced with double entendres that hint at deeper desires. Yet, beneath this veneer of attraction lies a web of deception. Sonny and Justine are locked in a high-stakes chess game, each plotting to outmaneuver the other in a battle that could topple empires. Imagine the irony: a mobster and a district attorney, worlds apart, drawn together by mutual ambition and forbidden curiosity, their schemes intertwining like vines on a crumbling wall. This dynamic adds layers of suspense, as every flirtatious exchange risks exposing their true intentions, potentially leading to explosive confrontations that ripple through Port Charles' elite circles. For loyal fans, it's a tantalizing setup that probes the blurred lines between enemies and lovers, questioning whether trust can bloom in such fertile ground for betrayal. As the week of November 10th to 14th unfolded, anticipation peaked with teases of Sonny and Justine finally yielding to their simmering chemistry, perhaps in a clandestine hotel room where professional masks slip away under the weight of unspoken longing. Picture the scene: rain pattering against fogged windows, Sonny's guarded eyes softening as Justine challenges him with a mix of defiance and vulnerability, their hands brushing in a moment that electrifies the air. But just as viewers leaned in, the episode pulled back, leaving the temptation unresolved and hearts hanging in suspense. This near miss amplifies the frustration, turning what could be a pivotal turning point into a drawn-out tease that tests audience patience. The spark between them is palpable in subtle cues: Justine's knowing smile during a tense negotiation, Sonny's rare flicker of admiration amid her relentless pursuit of justice, but it's flickering like a candle in a storm, vulnerable to the next plot gust. Analysts of the show's romance arcs point out how such buildup often signals either a breakthrough or a bust, with Sonny's history suggesting the latter. His entanglements rarely evolve beyond the thrill of the chase, leaving emotional wreckage in their wake. Despite these intriguing undercurrents, the Sonny-Justine duo is struggling to win over the fanbase, with social media buzzing more with skepticism than support. Platforms like Twitter and Reddit are flooded with posts decrying the pairing as flat and obligatory, likening it to a mismatched puzzle piece jammed into place. Viewers complain that their banter lacks the raw intensity of Sonny's past flames, coming across as scripted politeness rather than fiery passion. And the forced proximity feels like a writer's contrivance to fill airtime. One popular thread dissected a recent episode, noting how Justine's prosecutorial edge clashes awkwardly with Sonny's brooding charisma, resulting in dialogues that prioritize plot advancement over emotional depth. This backlash isn't isolated. Polls on fan sites show a mere 15% approval rating for the couple, with many citing a lack of organic progression unlike the slow-burn romances that once defined GH's golden eras. The pairing's blandness stems from its predictability, a bad boy good girl trope recycled without fresh innovation, failing to capture the moral ambiguity that makes Sonny's stories compelling. If the writers don't inject more authentic conflict or shared vulnerabilities soon, this romance risks fading into obscurity, remembered only as another misstep in Sonny's endless quest for connection. Of course, hope lingers that Sonny and Justine might hit their stride as the arc progresses, perhaps through a shared crisis that forces genuine alliance over scheming. Envision a scenario where an external threat, like a rival syndicate's ambush, unites them in survival mode, revealing Justine's hidden resilience and Sonny's protective instincts in ways that deepen their bond. Detailed breakdowns of upcoming episodes hint at collaborative moments where they navigate legal loopholes together, their flirtations evolving into tentative trust amid high-tension stakeouts or midnight strategy sessions. Such developments could redeem the storyline, transforming their connection from superficial sparks to a multifaceted partnership that challenges both characters' worldviews. Yet, the outlook remains cautiously pessimistic. GH's track record with Sonny's dalliances shows a pattern of short-lived highs followed by inevitable lows, often derailed by his criminal entanglements or the women's inability to withstand the chaos. Critics argue this reflects broader narrative fatigue, where forcing Sonny into new romances dilutes his core identity as a lone wolf haunted by loyalty's costs, making long-term success for this pair a long shot at best. When it seems inevitable Sonny and Justine's flame eventually sputters out, the fallout promises to be a catalyst for broader shifts in Port Charles. Their inevitable split could unfold dramatically, perhaps triggered by a courtroom betrayal where Justine's duty overrides personal feelings, leading to Sonny's isolation and a rare moment of introspection amid the ruins of another failed pursuit. This collapse might expose vulnerabilities in Sonny's empire, drawing in old allies and enemies alike, and forcing him to confront the loneliness that his power can't mask. Rather than recycling yet another fleeting interest, the show could seize this opportunity for reinvention, exploring how these romantic flops erode Sonny's confidence and strain his relationships with family and friends. Fan theories abound on forums, speculating that the writers might introduce a wild-card suitor, maybe a reformed operative from Sonny's past or an unexpected newcomer with insider knowledge to inject novelty. Though history suggests such attempts often recycle familiar tropes without resolution. At this crossroads, the gravitational pull toward reuniting Sonny with Carly Spencer grows ever stronger, a reunion that feels less like a plot device and more like narrative destiny. Love it or loathe it, the Sonny-Carly saga is woven into GH's fabric, spanning decades of triumphs, betrayals, and unbreakable ties that no amount of separation can sever. Their shared history is a tapestry of intense milestones, from co-parenting their children Michael, Jocelyn, and the lingering echoes of Donna, to weathering storms like divorces, near deaths, and empire-shaking scandals that only fortified their mutual understanding. Carly, with her unyielding spirit and street-smart savvy, navigates Sonny's underworld like no other, offering loyalty forged in fire. Recall the times she's shielded him from FBI heat or stood by during his bipolar struggles, her presence a stabilizing force in his turbulent life. No canvas character matches Carly's insight into Sonny's dual existence, where business and heart collide. She anticipates his moves, challenges his recklessness, and provides the rare trust that eludes his other pursuits. In a show rich with fleeting connections, their bond endures as a beacon of complexity, blending passion with pragmatism in a way that resonates deeply with fans craving authenticity over novelty. Moreover, practical threads bind them inexorably, the Corinthos family web, where holidays, crises, and daily dramas keep drawing them together, ensuring that any attempt at full detachment feels artificial and incomplete. Carly's intimate grasp of Sonny's operations from laundering fronts to alliance negotiations positions her as his ultimate confidant, a role no outsider can replicate without risking exposure or disillusionment. As the storyline advances, with Carly poised to dismantle Jack Brennan's shadowy influence through her cunning takedown, she emerges unencumbered, rejecting a future laced with uncertainty for one rooted in familiar strength. This victory could pivot her gaze back to Sonny, reigniting old flames in quiet moments of reflection, perhaps over coffee at the Metro Court where past promises resurface. GH spoilers tease updates to Sonny's romantic landscape, signaling that the writers may finally yield to audience demand, crafting a reunion arc that honors their legacy while exploring evolved dynamics like co-managing family legacies or facing new threats as a united front. Ultimately, as Sonny navigates these romantic detours, the path forward hints at resolution with Carly, restoring balance to his chaotic world and delivering the heartfelt payoff fans have long anticipated. Next, we will learn about the escalating family tensions that could tear the Falconeri household apart, with Dante Falconeri potentially drawing a hard line against his stepbrother Giovanni Joe Palmieri's influence on young Rocco. In the ever-twirling world of Port Charles, where loyalties shift like ocean tides, Danny's protective instincts are about to surge to the forefront. Spoilers from General Hospital tease a dramatic showdown that might result in Dante outright forbidding any further contact between Rocco and Joe, viewing the older teen as a walking hazard to his impressionable younger brother. This isn't mere parental overreaction, it's rooted in a pattern of near-disastrous mishaps that have repeatedly put Rocco in peril under Gio's watch. Imagine the heartbreak for Dante, a detective who's seen enough chaos on the job. Now facing it head-on at home, his frustration boiling over as he demands a clean break to shield Rocco from what he perceives as Gio's reckless shadow. Fans are buzzing with anticipation over how this rift could reshape family dynamics, especially since Joe once showed such promise in earning Danny's respect. Flashback to that fateful beach bash, a seemingly innocent night of teenage revelry that spiraled into terror, and you'll see why Danny's distrust runs deep. Rocco, barely old enough to navigate high school drama, ended up chugging more than he could handle, collapsing into a haze of alcohol poisoning that sent shockwaves through the Falconeri clan. Joe, thrust into a makeshift guardian role, dismissed the warning signs as youthful excess, figuring Rocco could just crash and recover by mourning no big deal in his eyes. But the reality hit like a storm. Rocco's life hung in the balance, requiring urgent medical intervention that left scars on everyone's hearts. Dante, arriving at the scene with sirens blaring in his mind, unleashed a torrent of fury at Joe, accusing him of failing spectacularly as the responsible adult in the room. This incident wasn't just a blip, it etched a permanent cautionary tale into Danny's parenting playbook, highlighting how Gio's laid-back attitude could mask genuine danger. Adding layers to this history, whispers among Port Charles locals suggest Gio's own unresolved anger from his fractured family background might have blinded him to the risks, turning a fun outing into a near tragedy that still echoes in family dinners. Now, as the week of November 17th to 21st unfolds on General Hospital, Joe finds himself teetering on the edge of another monumental fallout, one that mirrors the beach nightmare but amplifies the stakes in a high-tech lab breach gone wrong. The air is thick with regret as Joe steels himself to confess his pivotal role in the chaos that led Rocco to tamper with restricted facilities. A decision that could have long-term repercussions for the teen's future. Emma Scorpio Drake, with her sharp wit and adventurous spirit, shares some blame in sparking the initial plan. But Gio's the one stepping up to own his slice of the pie, admitting he never should have looped in Rocco or the other wide-eyed adolescents like Danny Morgan and Charlotte Casadini. Picture the scene, a dimly lit corner of the Quartermain estate, where Gio's voice cracks with remorse as he unravels the thread of events to Brooklyn Quartermain, his words painting a vivid picture of good intentions paving a road to ruin. This confession isn't just an apology. It's a raw exploration of how peer pressure and fleeting excitement can derail even the steadiest paths, forcing Joe to confront his own immaturity in a town where secrets never stay buried. Delving deeper into the botched scheme, it's clear Gio's error was in underestimating the domino effect of his choices. A classic Port Charles miscalculation that blends youthful bravado with unintended consequences. The original intent was straightforward: snag a key fob to satisfy curiosity. Nothing more, yet Rocco and his crew, fueled by the thrill of rebellion, pushed boundaries into full-blown invasion territory, breaching security that could alert authorities or worse, expose them to experimental hazards within the lab. Joe couldn't have predicted the full-blown panic that ensued, with alarms blaring and shadows of corporate intrigue looming large. But his inclusion of Rocco now feels like a betrayal of trust. Emma's involvement adds a layer of complexity. Her Scorpio heritage, known for daring escapades, might have egged on the group. But Gio's decision to bring his stepbrother into the fold stands out as the critical lapse. As he lays this out to Brooklyn, expect emotional depth, tears welling as Joe describes the moment he realized the plan had veered off course, vowing to rebuild bridges even if it means facing exile from the Falconeri circle. This segment of the storyline underscores themes of accountability, showing how one poor judgment call can ripple through relationships, leaving everyone questioning their roles in the web of teen antics. Brooklyn, ever the mediator with her Quartermain poise and heartfelt empathy, becomes the unlikely buffer in this brewing storm, absorbing Gio's heartfelt plea while bracing for the fallout. As Joe spills the details how the key fob heist snowballed into lab sabotage, endangering not just Rocco, but the entire group's futures, Brooklyn's eyes widen in a mix of shock and sympathy, her mind racing to piece together the puzzle. She listens intently, nodding as Joe emphasizes his lack of foresight, perhaps even sharing a vulnerable story from her own wild youth to ease his guilt. But the tension spikes when Dante materializes, either eavesdropping from the shadows or striding in with his detective's intuition, his face a mask of barely contained rage. Brooklyn might leap to Gio's defense, arguing that the teen's heart was in the right place, and that punishing him harshly overlooks the shared responsibility among the young schemers. Her words could soften the edges, reminding Dante of Gio's recent heroism in aiding Ned Quartermain during a tense corporate crisis, where Gio's quick thinking saved the day and sparked a glimmer of paternal pride. Yet, in this charged atmosphere, Brooklyn's advocacy feels like a fragile shield against the tidal wave of Danny's fear-driven anger. Dandy's reaction promises to be explosive, a volcanic eruption of paternal protectiveness that could redefine boundaries in the Falconeri family for good. With Rocco still reeling from the lab escapade perhaps, nursing bruises from a hasty escape, or grappling with the fear of legal repercussions, Danny's world narrows to one overriding priority: safeguarding his son from further harm. Overhearing Gio's confession or diving into the conversation, Danny's voice thunders with accusations, replaying the beach party's horrors as evidence of Gio's pattern of endangerment. He might pace the room, fists clenched, detailing how Gio's help has twice now led Rocco down dangerous paths, from alcohol-fueled blackouts to unauthorized break-ins that flirt with felony lines. In a moment of raw vulnerability, Dante could reveal his deeper worries, fears that Rocco's budding independence is being corrupted by Gio's influence, drawing parallels to his own youthful mistakes in Port Charles' underbelly. Drawing inspiration from Drew Kane's no-nonsense approach to family threats, Dante may declare an ironclad ban, forbidding Gio from any interaction with Rocco, not through courts, but through sheer force of will. Stay away for his sake, he might growl, his eyes flashing with the pain of a father who's lost too much already, emphasizing that this separation is the only way to prevent Gio from unwittingly steering Rocco toward irreparable trouble. The implications of this potential Rocco ban extend far beyond a single argument, weaving into the fabric of General Hospital's intricate family tapestries and hinting at broader themes of redemption and forgiveness. Gio, facing the sting of rejection, might retreat into isolation, pondering how his actions have fractured the fragile bond he was building with Dante, a bond forged in the fires of Gio's rescue mission for Ned, now crumbling under the weight of repeated lapses. For Rocco, the fallout could mean a forced maturity, isolated from his brother's camaraderie, yet perhaps wiser for the lessons learned in secrecy and consequence. Dante's decree, while born of love, risks alienating Gio further, potentially pushing him toward questionable alliances in Port Charles' shadowy corners, where Quartermain rivalries and Casadini schemes offer tempting distractions. As the week progresses, watch for subtle shifts, Brooklyn rallying support from the extended family, maybe enlisting Olivia's fiery Italian spirit to mediate, or even Emma stepping forward with her own atonement to ease tensions. This storyline masterfully dissects the blurred lines between guidance and overprotection, inviting viewers to question whether Dandy's ban will heal wounds or deepen them, all while keeping the drama pulsing with emotional authenticity. General Hospital spoilers continue to build suspense around this family fracture, promising twists that could either mend or shatter the Falconeri ties irreparably. Stick with us on the ABC General Hospital Spoilers channel for the latest updates as Dante delivers his verdict, exploring every angle of this heart-wrenching clash. Whether Gio earns a path back or faces permanent exile, one thing's certain: Port Charles never lets grudges fade quietly, and the fallout from this ban could echo through upcoming episodes with shocking revelations and unexpected alliances.